teach you to break this up.
Yeah. Welcome to discussion session Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. Keith, you wanna?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's agenda, we have the consideration to purchase 2 police patrol vehicles. Consideration to purchase 1 police traffic unit vehicle. Consideration to purchase 1 animal control vehicle. Consideration to purchase 1 police canine vehicle. The consideration to purchase 1 watch commander vehicle. The consideration to purchase 1 ready-to-use trades van, and the consideration of commencement of pension benefits. So a lot of vehicles and 1 pension benefit commencement. Covered tonight.
We wouldn't expect.
All right, first up. Vehicle detection, pedestrian signal upgrades. Howdy, Mike.
Good evening.
How are you?
Hi,
How's
Mike.
everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
I'll go ahead and share my screen, but there's just gonna be that memo, hopefully, that you guys got and had a chance to review. It'll just be for anybody online. So this is the Green Light Go grant, cycle 8, to install accessible pedestrian system along the Uptown Business District at all of the traffic signals, and also to upgrade the detection at those same intersections from the video detection that's currently out there and is outdated and no longer supported to radar, which will be consistent with the other 30+ signals that are throughout the municipality. So it'll get the detection at those intersections listed on here up to date with what we currently have throughout the rest of the municipality. The exhibit that I attached on here is just a map overview of those intersections. So in red, those are the intersections through Uptown, essentially starting at Shady East and West and going to the south to Castle Shannon Boulevard. The APS system, just as a refresher, the push buttons are meant for hearing and visually disabled pedestrians, of which there are several that frequent this district, and that's where this ultimately came from, the request came from. It's the same system that we have at Cochrane and Cedar that was installed a couple of years ago. And then it's also the same as was installed at Power Hill and Washington Road as part of that improvement project that was done a year or 2 back. The system itself, those 2 intersections actually have 2 different manufacturers push buttons. They do the same thing, but they're 2 different. So we actually spec'd out the one that Jason Wilson, your electrician, prefers. So there'll be the same exact system through this corridor as is the one at Cochrane and Cedar. I think.
Interchangeability of parts.
Yeah. And then the radar is all the same as throughout the municipality. The blue intersection, which is the Cochrane Washington Road intersection, that's also going to get the APS push buttons. That intersection is one of a couple of intersections in the municipality that has an exclusive pedestrian phase. It's right at the top of the hill from the high school. So the exclusive pedestrian phase is essentially anytime somebody pushes that button, when it gets to the pedestrian phase in the cycle, all vehicular traffic remains red and you have the exclusive walk phase. It's been that way for a while. It just doesn't have the APS system to let you know that you push the button and it doesn't have the audible component to it. And then the furthest intersection south, which is Crestview Manor and Longview, the only thing that's going there is removal of advanced camera detection and installation of the radar detection. So we did get bids. This is a Green Light Go, as I mentioned.
Well, the fact it's 80% funded by the grant.
Correct. So the actual grant agreement from the application was in the amount of $490,000, a little more than $490,000, but the 80% from the grant. The local match that the municipality has committed to is $122,000 for a total estimated project cost of $612,600. We did get 2 responsive bids, and they were very competitive and significantly lower than what we got from the grant. So the low bidder is Bronder Technical Services at a little over $309,000. That left us a whole lot of money left in the grant.
That's scaled down. Do we keep the grant at the total amount and then we just are still responsible for 20%?
Well, But to answer the question, it's a reimbursable grant.
Okay.
So if
we
we
have to
only
spend
spend a certain number,
Yeah.
we don't get the balance of the funding.
it. I
So
understand.
that's
Okay.
where Mike was gonna.
And it is whatever we do spend, which as of when I wrote this memo, I indicated that we're gonna reach out and see if we can add some more things to the
Yeah.
project. I have that answer. I'll go through that a little bit. But ultimately, whatever total is spent, the municipality is responsible for 80% of that. So it's not, we don't get to spend the 490, and if it's
Right.
less than 490, we don't put anything in. It's 80% of whatever we spend.
Yeah.
So we did work with Rudy and Jason, to come up with a list of other upgrades that they would like to see and that would be beneficial to the municipality. For the most part, we're looking for conflict monitors or MMUs within each one of the controllers, and basically what those are is Jason would liken it to a GFI switch in your bathroom that, you know, if water or something gets in there, it's basically gonna trip and you know, not cause any type of electrical damage. The conflict monitors and the controllers are just constantly monitoring every single electric current or anything that's happening in the controller. And if it recognizes something that's off, it'll put the signal in flash, which makes it a safe operation. So it'll be either an all red or an all red flash, I think is what they're basically saying. So we're red on the
Flashing red
sides.
or flashing yellow?
Yeah, flashing red on the side, yellow down the middle. What, the reason that these are, for newer technology, they're not as critical, but I've been an expert witness in a lot of crash cases where old signals and the technology didn't have this. And when the signal has a trip or an electrical issue, there's been times where you're getting green indications on all the approaches and people have no idea, and they call it Christmas tree, where the light is red, yellow, and green is all lit up and no one knows what's going on. So this avoids that type of situation. Throughout all the signals in the municipality, a lot of those devices are 18+ years old. When they're new or when they're a certain age, you're able to send them back on occasion to get recertified and then put back in with a 2-year warranty. Most of those are up. Some of them Jason can send back and get a 6 month or a 3 month or a 6 month, okay, but they're essentially gonna be obsolete as well. So we just wanna replace them all. I think there's 30 or so.
I asked Mike when that happens and this goes into the green or red flash. I said, do we get some type of a notification? I was thinking electronic. He said, yes, the police department will call you.
Or an angry motorist.
I get a lot of those.
So we will know.
So in addition to those, there are 2 other intersections, Altoona and Cochrane, and then Cochrane and Cedar that still actually have the old video detectors that are outdated, just like the ones that are out here. So we're gonna add those. We're actually gonna put those in as a change order once we get under contract with Bronder, because we have unit costs for the radar.
Right.
And we're gonna have the devices put in there and the cameras removed as part of that contract. The conflict monitors, Public Works is gonna order those, and Jason's gonna install them himself. And we're gonna make sure that we document that correctly, because you will get credit towards your 20% local match for in-kind services. So by Public Works doing that, so we're gonna work with the District 11 grant administrator to make sure we document that all correctly, so that we can apply as much of his labor and so forth towards the 20% local match.
Okay.
And then the last thing that we are doing, or that we want to add, is there are 3 intersections that we have older controllers that, and to get them to match the rest of the controllers throughout the municipality. We want to replace those with the Econolite Cobalt controller. There's 3 of those. Jason's also going to do that. So Public Works will purchase those, and Jason will handle that installation. So I know there's some notes and things on here, but ultimately, if we look at the unit prices we got for the radar, the removal of the cameras at those other 2 intersections, our estimate for all the conflict monitors and the controllers, some pro rata increase on the mobilization and site prep from the contract, because we're going to be adding 2 more intersections and radar at those. Going to be around $137,000 more. So if you add that to the 309, we're looking at about $446,000 total monies spent. which would then amount to 357 from the grant and 89 local, which the 89 will come down some once we work on the in-kind services, so. Either way, it'll be, you know, essentially under budget of, from the local match amount and what was ultimately awarded from the grant.
We have an email from District 11 indicating that we can add these and it will be, the language in the grant forward. That was good news. A lot of times we're sitting here telling you that things came in over and
budget.
above,
Right,
what
right.
the engineer's estimate or probable opinion of cost was. In this case, they were well under and that was welcome. Surprise.
Nice of you to get us back up to par.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I take no credit for any of that, sir. That was,
I really don't either.
It would be good. I took a couple calls from residents and emails related to crosswalks, but mostly to like painting when the school's year is done before the new school year. I've talked to Rudy about that in the past. We get as many of those done as we can. It would be maybe good. I don't think we put this on a discussion thing, but maybe good to understand safety around crosswalks, because my last couple meetings with the school director, the school board liaison to the commission have all focused on people going through red lights.
Yep.
Parents complaining, especially up on Mellon, Washington, because it's on Washington. Parents complaining about people going through those red lights during the day. You know, I talked to them about, I know, Chief, we've got people, we have officers out in cars kind of making the rounds in the morning around the schools, which is great. And the school directors have said they've noticed them, you know, during drop off and stuff like that, but they're still concerned about people blowing through red lights. So maybe just a future discussion about, you know, some of what we're doing to kind of combat the red light stuff. It keeps coming up. The last 3 meetings I've had with the school director, it's kind of been top of their comments from parents too. And it's coming up in PTAs, which is separate from the school board, but they bring it to, I keep telling them, go to the mobility board and keep bringing it up, so.
And they do.
Yeah.
I think we need those things that you have on bases that come up if you go
Right.
through.
Yeah,
like
walls,
Shred your
the
tires.
bollards. But maybe we can have a conversation about that, and if, you know,
Shred them.
I'm sure we'll get some comments, but, you know, just trying to let people understand what actually happens and what we do to combat it, and, you know, we can't stop every person from running a red light, but, you know,
It's a good idea. Let's get more attention on this issue.
yeah.
yeah, we can sort of do a comprehensive look of all of the different things that we do. Trying to have
Yeah.
people be more aware. We've just recently switched from Lookup Lebo to the PACE acronym. So we can talk about that a little bit. We can talk about the issue of, you know, driver awareness, crosswalk safety, all of those types of things, and just package everything for a
Yeah,
discussion session.
yeah.
Great opportunity to update about the active transportation plan, where
Right.
that's
Yep.
at.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's a good
That'd be
idea.
great.
Talk about what the
Yeah.
mobility board is doing.
Yeah.
Huh?
And then I might just call you during the week just to get like a even shorter summary of what you gave us to send to the school. Let them know what we're working on.
And we
This
did,
stuff I can-
and totally separately, when we reached out about the additional equipment, we tried to see if we could use the remaining funds for the school zone flashers, which
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
place this year, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
those devices aren't eligible for Green Light Go monies to be used for them, so.
How much is it anyway?
The total cost of.
The municipality budgeted 70,000 for it this year, and I think, well, there's 14 of them.
And that's in the budget already to do.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get 80 cents on the dollar for you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
understood.
We're trying.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Just on an administrative point, I would love for these types of topics to come to mobility also. Rudy.
I figured that's who you were talking to, but I just, thanks for calling him out. Yeah, to your point, maybe all of that could sort of go in front of mobility board to get packaged and then brought here.
It'd be nice. I'm not quite sure how we do it, but I think it's important that they hear
I
these
think
things.
it's probably a good idea for a good discussion anyway, considering how high on the list that stuff had been.
Okay.
Great, awesome, thanks.
Mhm.
Thanks, Mike.
You staying up for flow meters or? Oh, here we go.
Flow meters. Fascinating stuff.
Like it's traffic flow. Josh gets other flow.
Okay, so good evening, commissioners. I'm sharing the memo that was sent out on February 6th. And this memo essentially outlines the need for additional metering in the municipality for sanitary sewers. And there's two reasons for the metering. It's to address requirements related to road grant funding and to address requirements of the consent order. So memo outlines the cost of the meters and the number of meters that we have to put into place. But essentially with the various grow grants that we have going on and the consent order work where we're wrapping up the phase 1 consent order project, there's some post metering that's involved there. And there's also grow funds associated with some of these projects that we've been doing as part of the consent order. When possible, we're trying to utilize metering for grow funds and consent order funds to get more bang for your buck on the metering. And then in some instances, we're also able to coordinate with Alcosan for Alcosan to place meters in the municipality as well. And when those opportunities come up, we'll coordinate with them and realize those opportunities, which could result in a potential cost savings. But this memo outlines the cost, and essentially at this time, we're requesting commission approval for 5 additional meters with an estimated cost of $45,000 to $60,000 for a 6-month monitoring period. This metering is tied to approximately $600,000 to $1.4 million in reimbursements through the various grow grants that we're pursuing. And that's a range because depending on how it's funded, it could be funded from 15% construction costs up to 85% construction costs.
So
So
when you're talking about that money, there's a chance that some portion of this will be reimbursed back to municipalities. You were talking about all that money for grants, and then you were talking about 15% to 85%. Is that gonna affect the 45,000 to 60,000 cost Lebanon, or is the 45 to 60 the net number of all grants we applied for?
the 45 to 60 is the cost of the meters to go in place, just the meters themselves.
Right.
Now,
And the 6 months of service.
that's correct. Yeah, the 6 months. Now those meters are tied to 3 different grow grants
Okay,
that they're slated for.
so we need the meters to get the grow grants.
Correct. It's a requirement of the grow
You have
grant
to
to
prove.
place these meters.
That's okay, just for anybody following along, we need the meters to get
Yeah.
big money for the.
We've done this before where we've had like grow grants, like $750,000.
Yeah.
The question is, who's really looking at, I mean, I know it's part of the order and all that, and like, who's looking at
looking
it?
at
Who's
the
enforcing
Pre
it?
and post monitoring is required. And that's how one of the factors they use in making a determination. Dennis.
Yeah.
Was here in June,
Uh-huh.
talked to the commission about the first piece of this, which was the 18 to 24,000.
Mhm.
That's already good to go. All of these funds will come out of the sanitary sewer fund.
Right.
So the funding is in place. At the next commission meeting, I would imagine on the 24th, you may see an agenda item for these additional meters that Josh is talking to you about tonight. The first set of meters will go in February. I don't know what the timing is for the next set, Josh. I don't know if you know that off the top of your head, but.
It comes in stages. There's gonna be
Right.
a set of metering that is required next year as part of the consent order, and then there'll be additional ones related to future grow grants as well.
But before I put it on an agenda for commission approval, I just wanted to make sure that you had the background.
So I don't have any problem with doing this, obviously, I mean, we need to do it, but I would love for us to be able to see some of the results of this, especially so we could put it out to the public. I
agree with that.
answered a social media thing the other day with somebody complaining about the sewage fee, about how, what the sewage fee was spent for, or the stormwater fee, sorry, the stormwater fee was spent for and why we were doing it. And it would be great to have these numbers that says, look, this is what we've done, the crap we've kept out of the river.
I
And be
think,
really gross about it.
I think it's a good idea, because all this stuff is always out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
You know, all
yeah.
the sanitary and
Yeah.
stormwater stuff.
Yeah.
But also too, I know, you know, like with the projects that we were doing, we stopped just short of being required to create the lateral ordinance. But I'm assuming that some of this flow meter stuff has picked up. You know, like, we had a
Right.
lot of opposition from a few groups of residents that we didn't have proof that there was INI in the lines. I would imagine that flow meters have like, we look at that data, it lays that argument to rest, I would imagine.
It can help connect some of those dots depending on the work that's done in those sewer sheds.
Yeah, are we able to get that kind of data from these flow meters? I know we've had.
And
a
he's
bunch of
asking
them.
specifically if you can tell if the stuff's coming from the laterals
Yeah,
from
so
these
there's,
meters.
there's a combination of techniques to identify that. It can be combined with CCTV, smoke testing, there are various methods to identify that. As far as the metering goes, we have a set of data, we've done some projects. We're gonna meter the flows in these sheds to see what the delta is on the INI. I think we can take a look at seeing how we can pinpoint those different areas.
Yeah.
Now, these won't be a large number of meters to where we can sub-meter and really
Right.
pinpoint these areas down.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
mostly gonna tell us like a gross number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gross delta, but
Yeah, and I think that's important for our purposes. I mean, we don't need to have a, pinpoint GPS location of the worst lateral offenders. But an idea that says, hey, we've measured this with flow meters in different areas, and we could say definitively that we know we've got INI in these lines. I think down the line, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or whenever the next consent order is, that's probably gonna be a requirement. If not, if the lines will be 20 years older
Right.
and be closer to Swiss cheese then anyway.
Yeah, I think another, I'll say, place to get information from, quite honestly, and I still have some connections, would be to reach out to the real estate salespeople.
Yeah.
To just ask informally, even though it's not actually required at point of sale here, which is what we were talking about, how many home buyers are having it done anyway? My impression has been, just in having limited conversations, is most people now view a lateral
Mhm.
the same way they view a furnace
Right.
or a hot water tank or a roof as being just another system that's part of the house. So they're having it done anyway,
Especially when you have a line.
but I'd really like to hear that from people that are out in the field and are selling.
I think it's good anecdotal to have as another piece of the information puzzle. You know, like what I worry about from a public standpoint, do we expend funds on these things if we are eventually getting to the point where we're saying, hey, we need to put an ordinance in place that deals with laterals. We have the information behind it that says we've got the need,
Right.
and if, it sounds like the private sector's already ahead of this.
Potentially, but I'd like to still get sort of that anecdotal,
Yeah,
just so that we have that as another piece.
yeah.
And to your point, Craig, there's a note on future discussion agendas. Last year, when we were talking about some of the larger projects, I think the $3 million spend that we were doing, Craig had specifically asked for sort of a post-project review for those sanitary sewer projects
Uh-huh.
with that information.
Right.
So that's
Great.
already kind of here as a
Yeah.
future when we get that.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think that's important. Great.
And when I get back, I'll coordinate with Denny and other members of the team and figure out how we can organize this to present results and show the differences and what these
Make it understandable.
what these do. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of data that comes out of these
Yeah.
meters, so getting in a consumable
Yeah.
format and
Yes.
just way you
Yeah.
can relate, it's important.
Fabulous.
So we are in a position to, if approved, we can position to get these meters in
Yeah.
almost immediately.
Huge, somebody Dan can send me over an agenda item for the next commission meeting.
Yep.
For the anticipated, and you can use we've done them in the past. To approve the, placement of the meters and the expenditure that's associated.
We'll get that prepared and get that on. Any other questions?
Thanks for that.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. What's up?
So just by way of quick background, this was one of the, I'll say, commission requested topic. As we went through and did the website update, we had some conversations about integrating the police and fire websites into the municipal website and, some additional information was also requested. So Laura's going to provide with an update on that.
Thank you. All for having me here. I appreciate it. So this is your little check-in with the municipal website and some background for our vast at-home TV audience. Mount Lebanon's original website was about 30 years old when we decided to redo it. More than a decade ago, both the police and fire had their own websites as well. There was great information on them. It was kind of our habit. If we had information, we put it on the website. But over the decades, it became unwieldy, hard to find things. With the police and fire having separate websites, there was some duplication of work. For example, when a job would be posted, it would be posted on those sites. When there was a crime bulletin or something that somebody needs to know, it was duplicated. So in 2020, the decision was made to redo the website. We were distracted a little bit by the pandemic. And then we went full bore on redoing them all in 22 and 23. And in May of 2023, the municipal website was relaunched, and several months later, the police and fire were rolled into it. The cost at the time for all of that was $91,000 over the length of the contract. I can give you just a little brief look here. This is the homepage. We kept our trending information there is the critical information that we think people need to know. The searches were cleaned up. Obviously, I'll get to some of the stats in a little bit, but searches were the most important things. The majority of people who come to our websites do not come to the homepage and start looking around. They just go to Google and type in Mount Lebanon pool. And that's what they, and that's what we use internally as well. So the police and fire, just to give you a look at those, the color schemes are different, but the structure is completely mirrored. So everything looks the same. People should know where to find things. So that's fire. And when we developed the site, we looked at what people were looking for, what people were looking at, and we put everything to use in the structures that we made. So now that we've had a full year, 2024 of numbers, we had 273,372 users throughout the year of the municipal site, 488 sessions, and about 870,000 page views. It dipped a little bit from 2023, because 2023 we marketed constantly. We gave out magnets. We were out on the streets telling people to look. But the sessions were relatively flat, so that the number of times people logged onto the site. So. And the other thing that we did, so MyLevo is kind of a separate portion of the website. That's our service portal where people go to request overnight parking, where they put in a service request for public works, for tree trimming, for all sorts of different things, 24 hours a day. So those numbers are not included in the Google numbers that I gave you. Those are separate. Again, as I reiterated, 61% of our traffic comes to our website from organic web searches. So people are using whatever search engine they like to get here. 34% come for a direct link. So they may have an address of something that they want to go to, a bookmark, they go right to it. 3.7% comes from social media, which you would also expect, and 2% come from other referrals. So maybe the school district has a link to our site on their website, that's a referral. So that's where the traffic comes from. 68% come from devices. People, only 32% are using a desktop. So people are on the move. So that's why it's important that this design be responsive and work.
And I don't remember the analytics from last time, but my guess is that's a change because the site was not as mobile friendly before. Making it so is like build it and they will come kind of thing.
Correct. And the more time goes on, the more people use their devices.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes into the older demographic and, they're more native to
Yeah.
the digital. So what are they looking at when they get here? I know David Dunellen's on this call. It's rec. Rec is the biggest thing that people look for when they come to the website. Our homepage is the number one thing, but again, that's just because, that's just where some people start when they are here. Golf course, rec programs and classes, ice rink, swim center, parks and recreation landing page. Parking is the first non-rec thing that pops up. That's where our parking maps are. That's where our overnight parking rules are. That's where we list our accessible spaces, where we list our EV stations, all of that stuff is on the parking page. Youth basketball, human resources. One of the things that we also did is our human resources page has an embed with our Bamboo software. So mostly all employment is recruited through Bamboo. So it's an embed on that page and just onboard people right through that software. So it's pretty seamless, but that pushed HR higher on the search than it had been in past years. Garbage, that's a big one. That's number 11. Inspections, permits and zoning, recycling, shredding electronic equipment and yard waste. Newsflash, that's just our general, we have stuff to tell you, but it's too small to deserve its own page. Tennis center, PACS, crime mapping, that's another embed where the software that we get from the police department. We'll pull up on the map and people can set filters for what they're concerned about. They can set it by dates and it will tell them what is going on. July 4th celebration was our 19th most hit page, agendas, minutes, and videos for these meetings. Road construction, that was another thing we did on the site. We folded all the road construction as residents think about it, right? So in the past, we would think about road construction as things that we're doing to improve the roads. But really, if the water company rips your road up, the resident thinks about it that way. So there is one page where all of that stuff lives. And we're pretty clear about who's doing the work. Doesn't mean it necessarily gets through. People see a road closed sign and that's what they think of. But it's all on that page. The police landing page, the recreation center landing page, public works and junior tennis clinic. So that rounds out the top 25. And it's pretty similar to the last website, but because things are consolidated, there aren't as many fringe pages. So, and the pages viewed per visit is down a little bit. So people are not having to click as much to find what they want. So that's a good thing as well. Now I do have site tools that lets me see what people are searching for when they're in the website, when they go to the search bar and they type it in. That only tracks for 1 month. So in the last month, they wanted parking, trash, garbage, jobs, employment, recycling, overnight parking, 2024, which doesn't really say what, tax and tennis. It also lets me look at when people are going to the how do I, and that's not used very much. The highest request was typed in 3 times. So that tells you our search bar is working. They're not needing to go to the how do I bar. It's there in case somebody prefers it that way. But those searches are Levo alerts, complaints. Why we don't get any complaints. Request tree, zoom out, sign up for Levo alerts, tax, apply for a job, public affairs, fee, and tree trimming. So it all makes sense, right? This is the time when people request a lot of tree trimmings. The fee bills just went out, so that makes sense.
Do we have a sense of what happens internally, like when someone lands on, whether it's just internal Mount Lebanon or even at the police or fire, like do we get a sense of what their pathway is once they're in those sites?
I can pull those reports. The average page view is 1.7, so they're really only going one other place, so yeah.
So they're getting what they want.
They're getting what they're going.
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, we see like a reduction in the time on site and reduction in the total number of pages. That's not necessarily a bad thing considering the project we went through and the purpose of that project.
Site navigation easier.
Yeah.
So that people
Yeah.
aren't having to click.
Yes,
There's so many things.
yes.
So just to review a couple of, I know I keep saying this over and over, but I'm gonna keep saying it, the site is never done. So what things have we done since the 2023 launch? Last year, we added the comp plan dashboard. So we're in the process of getting the first quarter numbers adjusted there. We upgraded the boards and authorities, so the site launch in 2023, and less than a year later, we had a new boards and authority structure. So we redid those pages, and then we also redid the agendas. We're leaving all the agendas and the minutes and the videos on for 3 years for those sunsetted boards, but we figured some of the people coming in are gonna want that information, so that is still there. And then something else that we just did this month, the members of the Historic Preservation Committee of the Resiliency Board, read that to make sure I get all of the pieces of that. They were concerned that federal agencies looking to do projects in the historic district were not able to find a proper municipal staff member when they had a section 106 request. So a section 106 request is anytime a federal agency wants to do work in the historic district, they have to ask our proper officials, hey, do you think this would be detrimental to the district? So those are things, some of the requests that we've gotten, cell towers is a big one. Other buildings, and then we can request mitigation if we feel something would be detrimental. And one of the biggest examples of that is when Castle Shannon Boulevard, when the bricks were pulled, the mitigation for that is that we asked for PennDOT to do a study of all of our brick streets. So it's important that they be able to find that information. That said, there's a couple requests a year. So their request was to make it more visible. I was concerned that I didn't want it to usurp, all these other things being found. And the most important thing is for it to be found on a search. So I went in and revised the verbiage and put section 106. So now when you Google Mount Lebanon section 106, the page comes up. I put in a couple bookmarks. So hopefully that will make it easier to find. So those types of requests are really important that we fill them out so that the boards and authorities feel that their work is discoverable.
I know we had, when we discussed the extra fire and police stuff that you worked with the chiefs, like, are we, like, is the site working for them? Is there stuff that we need or don't, you know what I mean? Like, is there anything that we need to do that hasn't been done yet?
On the police site,
Yeah,
as far as we're concerned, it's been very effective.
good.
We've been able to get a lot of traffic on it. We put out our ad for new hires. It gets a lot of traffic through that, so we really are happy with it. It's all under one umbrella, really the best case scenario for us. So it really makes it a lot cleaner, makes it really streamlined in terms of when everything needs to be addressed, that we can do that in a very efficient way as opposed to before, a lot more cumbersome and a lot less efficient for us.
Yeah.
And now we're able to just, really have one-stop shop for all our web needs. So we've been very happy with it.
Okay, great. Same on fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
similar on the fire side, some of the things we've talked about internally is some more transparency with some more real-time or at least near real-time data, working through some of those elements. But as far as the structure of how the site works, when we first took this project on prior to the larger revamp that the municipality went through was really kind of along with Laura's philosophy of creating an environment where if I'm a resident, what am I interested in? I'm interested in, can I have a bonfire in my backyard? What do I need to do as far as, getting stuff inspected, the Citizens Fire Academy? So we try to structure it in a way that the rest of the municipality is kind of structured now. So I think it's really worked well for us. Limited feedback, obviously, it's kind of a niche environment, but it has worked well.
Great.
And Nick's biggest concern at the time was, I want to make sure if somebody wants to volunteer, that it stays prominent on the site, because for us, recruitment is important.
Huge.
And with police recruitment, there's a recruitment and retention group that we put together. And when we transferred over to this website, we spoke to them, and one of the biggest things we had to do was a photo shoot, just to get pictures. Most of our pictures at the police departments were them standing in front of cars. Like, that's not gonna get somebody to want to work here. They want to see people, they want to see what we're doing, they want to see some of our other equipment. They know they're gonna get a car. So. So what is next for the municipal website? One of the things that we've been working on this week, that was the tool for flow charts. So one of the things that the comprehensive plan said is, we want you to use more flow charts to explain complicated processes. there wasn't a way in the past to have a flow chart on our website, so it would be responsive on a device and for it to be clear and for us to be able to make it integrated so that if somebody's, the example that we're using is the ice program at the rec center. Yeah, so, well, just the progression through the whole program. You start with Learn to Skate and then you go through the various levels. So we're working on that. There's we put together a proposal and Manager McGill approved it for us to work on flow charts. So, and we're gonna carry that through a million other things with the zoning code rewrite that we have coming up. We are going to adapt the traffic calming page, the sidewalk page. I mean, anything that has a process that's really complicated will become visual on that. So that is one of them.
Before you go to
yeah.
traffic calming, can you wrap in mobility, please? Because there's lots of conversations around that. I want to make sure you're not building something and then we're like, hey, we're gonna change a bunch of stuff.
Well, it's just reiterating the policy.
I know
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
That stuff's pretty, like,
That's my point.
that stuff's not subjective. Like, that's very, like, the traffic stuff is very
It is,
objective.
then we need to get
Right,
this.
but that,
Yeah,
We can do that.
different topic.
yeah.
So one of the things that we're working on actually this week is UserWay web accessibility software. So this is software that, we had software on there before that will read, it's a reader that will
Yeah.
read the site, that
Yeah.
will help with contrast. It will help
Yeah.
with all the different stuff. This particular software is actually intuitive in that it looks for errors on our website, corrects them before they get to the end user. So that helps us not have a violation and it helps the readers be able to use the site without an issue. So a good thing. And one of the things that the commission asked for was goals from staff. Our goal is an increase in traffic on both the magazine and the municipal website of 2% this year. So we are, the numbers were a little bit down for the municipal site because we did heavy marketing. We're gonna get back out there and promote it, remind people it's here, remind people of all the things that are there.
We used to have accessibility thing up. Is that just going away until you solidify?
No, it's here,
UserWay?
it's here. We're
Oh,
just
it is.
working on it. We literally
Oh,
just, you see
gotcha.
the little guy down here
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the corner?
yeah.
We just literally put it today, so there's
Yeah.
there's some bugs to work out with it.
Yeah.
but-
Like, I don't know which version of I just implemented UserWay on a client's project. It's really nice.
Yeah.
It's really not that expensive.
No, and it does other things too, like it helps
Yeah.
with your photos and if for some reason you forget alt text, it will
Yeah.
sub some alt text in there. So.
I was amazed at all the accessibility features it offers, like, and you can combine them for people that have sight issues, audio issues, prompting, like it does a lot. Does a lot. Yeah.
Pumps up the text size for
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
So jumping over to the Lebo Mag website, that website began in 2011 and had a small update 9 years ago. That is the sum total of every article we've had on the magazine since 2011, and then a flip book version of the magazine of each issue. And then breaking news. There's a lot of times where there are things we want to write about, things we want to cover from a journalistic perspective that don't fit in the deadlines. So this year, we're updating the look, navigation, usability, and accessibility of that. You all approved that. Thank you very much in your budget that you approved in December. Our traffic on the website for the magazine was up quite a bit in 2024. So we are very happy about that. And again, that traffic goes up, the more new content we put up there, just it gets shared more. That's kind of a no-brainer. So we're working on that. We did have some changes in staffing last year. So this year, I think we're on a roll. That also has a 2% growth goal, as I mentioned before. So that project that you funded was $14,700, and that has about a 16-week. We just started that about 2 weeks ago. It's about a 16-week time period. So I'll be back in front of you showing you that when that's ready.
The company we hired to do a lot of the work, they're still kind of back end managing some of it,
Correct.
right? Like maintenance and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, when we went out to the public for the reconstruction, for lack of a better word, contracts, we asked everybody to submit maintenance.
Yeah.
Because WordPress, just the very nature of it, when WordPress
Sure.
updates, sometimes the plugins break. And I want them to tell me the plugins that will work for us.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Sure.
yeah. So this is just the magazine website as it looks now. So you see that we have a flip book, but this hasn't been touched in 9 years. So it needs to be updated. So, and we do sell ads on this format. We do not sell them on the municipal site, but we do sell them here.
But this was the last part that we were talking about weaving in with the same theme and design.
Yes, so it will relate to it. It has to be different enough that people, the good point that was brought up, well, we don't want people to be on this site and look for overnight parking because we don't, it has to have a separate identity. But right now it doesn't relate to it at all. one of the things I noticed when I went to renew our copyright for our logo is we don't even really have the logo anywhere. Because for so long, the magazine had this distinct identity, which I think it should still have, but there should be no mistaking that it belongs to the municipality. And that visual cue should be there. So that's what we're working on. But again, you know, these menus, all these menus across the top, people don't use those menus anymore. So it'll be completely redesigned.
Is there general timing for that?
That's a 16 weeks.
Oh, I get it, okay. Perfect. Cool. Good update.
Well, thank you all. I really appreciate your support, our communications. It's very important to all of us to get our residents and our visitors and our property owners knowing what's going on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it. Thank you, Laura. And on the button, ahead of time. There are two boards. Yeah, boards and authorities.
Mobility is continuing to move forward on a variety of fronts. Again, we continue to have residents, continue to come and express concerns about various streets, Kelso being a big one, which again is not, it's a state road. But again, the frustration continues, on various levels, right? Again, with, you know, traffic speeds, you know, people desiring slower traffic, you know, more enforcement, speed bumps, better lighting, better crosswalk signalization, better crosswalks, repainted crosswalks, you name it, right there. That is a constant. The board is continuing to look at a redesign of the street redesign process, right? And what does that look like? Which is why I brought up the traffic calming item, because I think if we're going to redo, you know, a process, the policy needs to align with it. Just as an example, the other night, the board Gateway brought forward two streets that had traffic studies done that did not meet our current policy in terms of thresholds for continued study. And I told the board, I said, look, you can vote to move it forward just because we said it doesn't meet the policy. You can still push it to commission if you feel it's appropriate to, you know, consider it anyway, which they didn't do. Which again that's fine, right? That is within their remit to do that. But I think it's important that we recognize that residents aren't just asking for calmer speeds, they're asking for a better experience on their street. So what is the process that we understand? Thresholds are one thing that we need to be thoughtful about, but that's not the only thing we need to be thoughtful about. So that's really where we're trying to, you know, guide the mobility board to be thinking about how to understand this redesign process. And make sure there's a clear process, because I'll be frank, yeah, I have residents come up here or come up in our meetings and they'll say, what do we do next? And even I scratch my head, right? And that's not the right answer. We need to have clear paths for people. You know, how do we make this better? So that's really the direction that we're going with mobility. A lot of structural stuff, it's gonna take a while, but they're doing neat stuff. They can keep continuing focusing on sidewalks. They thought about the next steps around sidewalks. They are engaged, you know, on a variety of fronts, so they're moving forward.
Not much to add. Finance board for February got canceled for lack of quorum. The historical board meeting, they had pushed their date back, so it conflicted with MRTSA, could not be in two places at one time. So I picked MRTSA. And at MRTSA, we did vote to approve the 2024 funding levels. Because we're getting answers back for the study before we approve their request for 2025 funding. So that's, I like what happened with MRTSA.
We reported on the CEB in the executive committee meeting in MRTSA. Yep.
Resiliency, we haven't met since last time, but that last time, I mean, that was one of the things that came up through was that section 106 recommendation, I believe. And it's good to see that incorporated. We're gonna see some legislation coming up through the commercial districts and economic development subcommittee regarding some vacancy within the commercial districts. And so that's something that I think will be a point of discussion coming up soon. And I'm pleased to see that, you know, continue to talk about EVs. And so, yeah, things are moving forward there. And then the new liaison on planning, and we had there was a meeting a couple weeks ago on the Hubot was looking to make a few changes back of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it was,
Subdivision or something.
yeah, some,
There's a wall, was that?
yeah, basically, trying to add a little space around back and, you know, there was a few things that got kicked back that needed to be addressed, but it mostly looked like it was in pretty good shape, so.
Cool. On the school district side, they had their strategic plan and then they had focus groups to follow up on some of that stuff. So those focus groups are now completed. Kindergarten registration is open. They are beginning the nomination process for the 2025 Great Alumni Awards.
Oh.
So if you have nominations, check out the site. They've been working mostly on administrative stuff, not too much different than, you know, kind of New Year stuff, even though technically it's not their fiscal new year, but a lot of the stuff has been administrative. So that's what they're up to. And that's it from the school side. That's it. And it's early. Oh, yeah. Anything else? We're good?
You're the chair, you turn.
Oh, yeah, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.